The Vorin, a race of aliens with advanced technology, had been watching Earth for months. They had seen humans from a distance and believed them to be a primitive species, no more advanced than the animals that roamed their planet. Their ships, sleek and powerful, hovered silently over Earth's atmosphere. The Vorin had traveled across the stars to make first contact, excited to learn more about this strange little planet. On the ground, humanity had no idea what was coming. A team of Earth's best scientists, diplomats, and military leaders gathered in a massive stadium, preparing for the momentous event. The Vorin ship descended slowly, sending gusts of wind through the crowd. The air was tense, but the humans were hopeful. This was the moment they would show the galaxy that Earth was ready to join the greater community of planets. As the Vorin ship touched the ground, its sleek doors slid open. From within emerged tall, graceful figures, alien beings unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Their skin shimmered in silver and blue, their eyes glowing with intelligence. They walked with a calm confidence, scanning the humans around them. The human ambassador, a middle-aged man named John Harris, stepped forward to greet them. His voice was steady, despite the enormity of the situation. "Welcome to Earth," he said, extending his hand. One of the Vorin stepped forward, extending a long, elegant hand to shake. The crowd fell silent as the two hands met. The moment was symbolic, a handshake between two species, marking the beginning of a new era. The Vorin leader, speaking through a translator, began to address the humans. "We have traveled far to meet you. We have heard of your kind and are curious to understand your technology and your potential." John smiled, sensing the opportunity to make a good first impression. "We are honored by your visit. Earth is ready to share its knowledge and learn from you as well." The Vorin listened carefully, but they were still skeptical. Their superior technology had allowed them to dominate the stars, and they believed that humans were far behind. But as they prepared to begin the formal discussions, something unexpected happened. John Harris reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple, everyday pen. With a casual flick of his wrist, he pressed the button, and in an instant, a small blade shot out from the pen's top. The Vorin leader's eyes widened. What they thought was an innocent object had turned into a deadly weapon in a moment. The crowd gasped. The alien delegation stood frozen, unable to understand what had just happened. They had expected to see advanced weapons or tools, perhaps even ships capable of space travel. But this was something completely different. John, noticing their shock, casually flicked the blade back into the pen, smiling. "We don't just rely on technology," he said. "We turn anything into a weapon when we need to." The Vorin leader tried to regain composure, but the shock was clear. It was just a pen, something so simple, so common. Yet, in the hands of humans, it became deadly. The aliens were now uncertain. What kind of people were they dealing with? The first meeting ended in confusion, and the Vorin could only wonder, what kind of species had they come to visit? Earth's simplicity seemed to hide a terrifying potential. The aliens had no idea what they had just stepped into. After the surprising demonstration with the pen, the Vorin leader, Zolthor, couldn't shake the image of the small blade springing out from an ordinary object. He and the rest of his team exchanged nervous glances. This was not the reaction they had expected. They had come prepared for diplomacy, not for a display of how humanity could turn anything into a weapon. The humans, on the other hand, were still calm. John Harris, the ambassador, seemed almost casual, as if turning everyday items into deadly tools was nothing extraordinary. He knew that the aliens had to understand what made humans different from the rest of the galaxy. They needed to see what Earth was really capable of. "Is this a joke?" Zolthor asked, his voice hesitant, his gaze fixed on John. John smiled, sensing the Vorin's confusion. "Not at all. We humans are resourceful," he said, turning to the audience of humans gathered around them. "Let me show you what we mean." A hush fell over the crowd as John gestured to a nearby table, covered in objects that seemed as harmless as the pen had been. There were pencils, paper clips, books, a glass of water, and even a simple coffee cup. He picked up the pencil and held it up. "Watch closely," he said, then with a swift motion, snapped the pencil in half. The broken pieces were suddenly sharp, and with a twist, one end of the pencil became a pointed spear. A simple pencil, when needed, can be turned into a weapon. It's not about the object, it's about how we use it. The Vorin looked on, stunned. They had seen humans use tools before, but never like this. How could a species so young, so new to space travel, understand how to weaponize everything they touched? Zolthar's mind raced as he tried to calculate the threat of humanity's unpredictable abilities. John didn't stop there. He turned to the coffee cup next. Gently, he knocked it over, letting the water spill out. With quick movements, he snatched a paperclip from the table and bent it, shaping it into a sharp hook. "Now we have a fishing spear," he said, holding it up for the Vorin to see. One of the Vorin officers whispered to Zolthar, his voice filled with disbelief. "This is impossible. How do they do this?" "They don't just use tools," Zolthar replied softly, still in shock. "They transform them into something else. We can't predict it." John noticed the Vorin's reaction and continued to demonstrate. He grabbed a book, flipping through its pages until he found a section with illustrations. With a single tear of paper, he expertly fashioned a slingshot. "This book is for reading, yes, but it can also be a weapon if needed." The humans in the crowd cheered, proud of their ambassador's display of human ingenuity. But Zolthar and the Vorin remained silent, deep in thought. They began to realize that this wasn't just about technology or power. It was about adaptability. Humanity had the ability to take anything, no matter how simple, and use it to their advantage. Zolthar was starting to see the truth. Humanity's potential was far greater than they had imagined. Their ability to turn anything into a weapon wasn't just a talent, it was a survival instinct. The Vorin had underestimated Earth's people. What they saw now was not a planet of weaklings, but a world of inventors, creators, and warriors, capable of changing the very nature of everything they touched. As the demonstration ended, the Vorin remained quiet. Their mission had started with the belief that Earth was a peaceful, unthreatening planet. But now, they weren't so sure. The next steps in their diplomatic relations would be much harder than they had anticipated. And as for John Harris, he couldn't help but smile. Humanity had just shown the galaxy what they were capable of. And it was only the beginning. As word of the encounter spread across the globe, humans found themselves in a whirlwind of emotions. News of the first contact with the Vorin dominated every headline, and people couldn't stop talking about the shocking demonstration of human ingenuity. But the reactions were mixed. Some felt pride in how the Earth had handled the encounter, while others feared what might come next. In every major city around the world, television screens and social media exploded with discussions of the event. People watched the footage over and over, marveling at the human ambassador, John Harris, turning everyday items into deadly weapons. Some thought it was just clever trickery, but most couldn't help but be impressed by the resourcefulness of humankind. At the United Nations headquarters, leaders from every nation gathered to discuss the implications of what had just happened. The Vorin had seen Earth as a planet of little consequence, yet humanity's ability to turn anything into a weapon had left them shaken. This power could either be a blessing or a curse for the human race, and the global leaders knew it was time to decide how to proceed. President Laura Mitchell of the United States stood at the front of the assembly, her face serious but resolute. "This is a turning point for humanity. We've just shown the galaxy that we are not a species to be underestimated. But we must be careful. This power comes with responsibility." The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement and disagreement. Some leaders were excited about the possibilities of joining the galactic community, while others warned that Earth had just shown the universe that it was capable of unimaginable destruction. Meanwhile, in cities around the world, people reacted differently. In some parts of Asia, there were celebrations. The ability to turn anything into a weapon was seen as proof that humans could survive and thrive in even the harshest environments. The spirit of innovation and self-reliance was celebrated as a core part of humanity's identity. If we can make weapons out of pencils and paper clips, one man said in a broadcast, imagine what we could do with real technology. In Europe, the mood was more cautious. People feared that humanity's newfound strength might provoke other alien species to act against them. The questions of whether humans could control their power and how they would interact with other civilizations became a major topic of discussion. We have the ability to defend ourselves, one scientist explained. But we also have to ask ourselves, should we? In Africa and South America, the reaction was one of hope. Many saw this as a moment of unity for humanity. Earth's people had come together to face a common challenge, and they had done so with incredible creativity and adaptability. If humans could create weapons from anything, perhaps they could also create peace from anything too. The potential for innovation and cooperation seemed limitless. The Vorin, for their part, were still reeling from the demonstration. Their superior technology had never prepared them for a species like humanity, one that could see a coffee cup and instantly imagine it as a tool of war. The Vorin delegation returned to their ship, deep in conversation about what they had witnessed. Zalthor, the leader of the Vorin, sat in his private quarters, staring out at the Earth from the windows of his ship. He had come to the planet with the belief that they would be the ones to teach humanity about the stars. Instead, he was beginning to understand that Earth itself might teach them far more than they had bargained for. Back on Earth, humanity had a choice to make. Would they use their incredible ability to turn anything into a weapon for peace, or would they let it spiral into something far more dangerous? One thing was certain: the world would never be the same again. The question now was whether humanity would be a force for good, or if they would let their power consume them. The future of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, was in their hands. The Vorin had thought they were the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their technology was unparalleled, their ships faster than light, and their weapons could destroy planets. But now, after seeing what humanity could do with nothing more than everyday items, they began to question their assumptions. The Vorin delegation stayed on Earth for several more days, observing humanity's every move. They watched with a mix of disbelief and awe as humans continued to demonstrate their ability to transform ordinary things into deadly tools. What struck them the most was that humans didn't need advanced machinery or rare resources. They could make weapons out of anything. One afternoon, the humans gave the Vorin a demonstration that shocked them even more. A team of engineers from around the world gathered in a large open area. They had been asked to show the aliens how they could turn simple, everyday items into machines of destruction. The Vorin were eager to see what humans would do next, but they weren't prepared for the spectacle that followed. The engineers started with something as simple as a bicycle. At first, it seemed harmless. The Vorin officers tilted their heads, wondering how a bicycle could become dangerous. But the humans didn't just use it as a mode of transportation. Within minutes, they had turned the bike into an armored war machine. The tires were replaced with steel, and the handlebars became reinforced with sharp metal blades. A small engine was attached to the back, turning the bicycle into a fast-moving weapon, capable of ramming through obstacles with incredible force. The Vorin officers exchanged nervous glances. How is this possible? One of them whispered to Zalthor, their leader. Zalthor could only shake his head. He had never seen anything like this before. It wasn't just that humans were good at engineering. It was that they were able to take the most ordinary things and turn them into machines of war. It was as if they could see the potential in everything around them. Next, the humans demonstrated their ability to weaponize something as common as a chair. One engineer grabbed a simple wooden chair, then in a few quick moves, he transformed it into a portable shield. Another took a small piece of cloth and wrapped it around the seat, creating a slingshot that could launch heavy objects with incredible accuracy. It was clear. No matter what the object was, humans could always find a way to turn it into something useful or deadly. But the most surprising demonstration came when the humans turned their attention to a basic kitchen tool, a rolling pin. At first, the Vorin laughed, thinking it was a joke. A rolling pin, after all, was used for baking. But when the human engineer placed a small explosive device inside the hollow center of the pin, it became a weapon capable of causing massive damage. It wasn't just the tool, it was the imagination and creativity of the human mind that made it so dangerous. The Vorin were stunned. They had never imagined that a species could be so adaptable, so quick to make use of whatever was available. What they had seen so far was just a glimpse of what humanity could do. The Vorin were beginning to realize that they had made a huge mistake. They thought humanity was a primitive species, but now they saw the terrifying potential that Earth's people possessed. As the demonstration ended, Zolthor gathered his team. "We have underestimated them," he said quietly. "This species is unlike anything we have ever encountered. We must be careful." But Zolthor also knew that they couldn't leave Earth just yet. The more they saw, the more they realized that humanity had something the galaxy had never seen before, the ability to adapt and innovate in ways that could reshape the universe. Whether it was a pen, a chair, or a rolling pin, humanity could turn anything into a weapon. And that made them both a powerful ally and a dangerous enemy. The Vorin weren't sure which side humanity would choose, but they knew one thing for certain. Earth was no longer the weak, helpless planet they had once thought it was. The Vorin had arrived on Earth with one goal in mind: to learn about humanity and possibly make an alliance. They had expected to share their advanced technology and knowledge, but what they found was a species that didn't need their help. Humans had already demonstrated their ability to turn anything into a weapon, and that left the Vorin leaders uncertain. Could humanity be trusted with such power? Or would they become a dangerous force that would threaten the galaxy? After the demonstrations, Zolthor, the Vorin leader, called a meeting with his team. They sat in a quiet room aboard their ship, staring out at the blue and green planet below. Zolthor's mind was racing. He had come to Earth expecting to make allies, but now he wasn't sure who could be trusted. The human ingenuity they had witnessed was both amazing and terrifying. "We underestimated them," Zolthor said, his voice filled with concern. "They are not what we thought they were. They can turn anything into a weapon. And with their creativity, they could very well surpass us." One of his officers, Salcora, nodded in agreement. "They don't need advanced technology. Their minds are their greatest weapon. If we don't act carefully, they could become a threat to every civilization in the galaxy." Zolthor leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. The Vorin had always been the dominant species. They had traveled the stars, discovered new worlds, and built powerful alliances with other races. But now, Earth had changed everything. Humanity wasn't just a species to observe. They were a force to be reckoned with. But there was another thought that crossed Zolthor's mind. Humanity could be a powerful ally as well. Their adaptability, their ability to think outside the box, could be useful to the Vorin in ways they hadn't imagined. Perhaps, instead of seeing them as a threat, they could learn to work with them. After much deliberation, Zolthor decided to take a risk. He sent a message to Earth's leaders, proposing an alliance. The Vorin, he explained, could offer humanity advanced knowledge in exchange for their cooperation. They could share their technology and help Earth take its place among the stars. But only if humans agreed to work together. The response from Earth's leaders was swift. Some were eager to accept the offer, hoping that an alliance with the Vorin could bring peace and prosperity to their world. Others, however, were more cautious. They had seen the potential for disaster that lay in humanity's ability to weaponize anything, and they were worried that accepting the Vorin's offer might mean losing control of their own future. President Laura Mitchell, who had become a strong voice for Earth's unity, called for a global meeting. She knew this decision was one of the most important in human history. The Vorin have technology and knowledge we could only dream of. But we must be careful, she warned. We cannot let ourselves be used or manipulated. We must ensure that any alliance we form is on our terms. John Harris, the human ambassador who had first met the Vorin, spoke up. We've shown them our strength. Now we must show them our wisdom. We can work with them, but we must not let them control us. We must use this alliance to secure our future, not just for us, but for the entire galaxy. The debate continued for days. Some wanted to embrace the Vorin's offer, eager to expand Earth's horizons and gain access to their advanced technology. Others feared that humanity might lose its independence and become a tool for the Vorin. In the end, a decision was reached. Earth would form an alliance with the Vorin, but only if certain conditions were met. Humanity would retain control over its own destiny, and the Vorin's help would be used only for the betterment of Earth. Zulfur, hearing the terms of the agreement, knew that this was the right decision. He had come to Earth thinking that the Vorin were the ones in control, but now he realized that this alliance would be a partnership, a true exchange of knowledge and strength. He wasn't sure where this path would lead, but one thing was clear: Earth's future would be shaped by humans, not by the Vorin. As the two species prepared to begin their collaboration, neither could predict what the future would hold. Would humanity use its new alliance for good, or would their creativity, once again, turn everything into a weapon? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: Earth had just entered a new chapter, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Months passed since the alliance between humanity and the Vorin had been formed. The Vorin shared their knowledge of advanced technologies with Earth, but humanity was quick to adapt and use it in ways the aliens hadn't imagined. Human engineers and scientists worked tirelessly, learning how to improve the Vorin's technology and make it even more efficient. As the partnership grew stronger, some Vorin began to wonder if they had made a mistake by offering such powerful tools to a species so unpredictable. Zulfur, the Vorin leader, often found himself reflecting on the rapid progress humanity was making. When he had first arrived on Earth, he had been impressed by their resourcefulness. But now he began to realize how dangerous their ingenuity could be. Humans were taking Vorin technology and bending it to their will, creating new weapons and strategies that the Vorin hadn't anticipated. One of the most significant developments was humanity's ability to adapt Vorin energy technology. The Vorin had mastered a form of clean, limitless power, but humans had figured out how to harness that energy in ways the Vorin had never thought possible. Earth's scientists had found ways to weaponize the energy, turning it into devastating lasers and force fields. They had also created energy shields strong enough to resist even the most advanced Vorin attacks. The new technology made Earth's defense nearly impenetrable. On Earth, the people were excited by the new advancements. Their military forces had been strengthened, and they felt more confident in their place within the galaxy. But there was also fear. People were beginning to question if humanity was becoming too powerful too quickly. The knowledge shared by the Vorin could lead to great prosperity, but it could also be a curse. If humans were not careful, they might become the very thing they had once feared: the source of destruction in the galaxy. President Laura Mitchell, who had been one of the strongest voices in forming the alliance, knew that humanity had to tread carefully. "We have the power to change the galaxy, but we must not lose our way," she said in a speech to the world. "We must remain true to the ideals of peace and cooperation, not just for ourselves, but for all of those we will meet in the future." Yet, as the human race continued to grow in power, some individuals saw only opportunity. There were those who wanted to use the new technologies for control, to dominate weaker civilizations, or to wage war. Secret factions, both on Earth and within the Vorin delegation, began to form, each with their own agendas. Some saw the alliance as a way to rise to power, while others worried that it could be too late to stop the potential for destruction. Zulfur, sensing the growing unease, decided it was time for a direct conversation with the leaders of Earth. He requested an emergency meeting with President Mitchell and the rest of the Global Council. He knew that the balance of power had shifted, and humanity was no longer just a species with potential. It was now a force capable of shaping the future. When Zolthor arrived at the meeting, he looked directly at the leaders of Earth. "We must talk," he began. "We have shared knowledge with you, and you have adapted it in ways that even we did not foresee. But I fear that we may have made a grave mistake." President Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean, Zolthor?" "I mean that your power has grown beyond what was intended," Zolthor explained, his voice serious. "If humanity continues on this path, there will be nothing to stop you from becoming a force of destruction. The galaxy might not be ready for what you're capable of." Mitchell's eyes narrowed. "You're not saying we should stop using the technology, are you? We've agreed to share and grow together." "I'm saying that there must be a balance," Zolthor responded. "You have the power, yes. But power without control leads to chaos. We must ensure that we use this power wisely, for the good of Earth and the galaxy." The room fell silent. The weight of Zolthor's words hung in the air. Humanity had come so far so quickly. But now, the question was whether they could manage their new power without letting it consume them. Would the alliance between humanity and the Vorin lead to peace, or would it bring about the downfall of both races? The path forward was unclear. Humanity had entered an era of great potential, but also great risk. As the leaders of Earth considered the future, one thing was certain: how they chose to use their newfound power would determine not only the fate of Earth, but the entire galaxy. As weeks passed, the tension between the Vorin and humanity grew. The alliance, once built on trust and shared goals, was now beginning to show cracks. While the Vorin were worried about humanity's rapid development, some on Earth felt that the Vorin were trying to control their progress. Many humans believed they had earned the right to use the technology they had been given, and there was growing resentment toward the Vorin's warnings. On Earth, people were divided. Some believed in using the new technology to explore the stars, to bring peace to the galaxy, and to create a better future. Others, however, were more cautious, worried about the power they now held. Secretly, factions began to form, with some humans calling for the establishment of Earth's dominance over other species, not just as peaceful explorers but as conquerors. The fear of what humanity could become was beginning to seep into the hearts of many. President Laura Mitchell, who had once been the strongest advocate for peace, was now facing increasing pressure from both sides. On one hand, she had to manage the growing faction of humans who wanted to use their newfound power to extend their reach. On the other hand, she knew that the Vorin were becoming more suspicious of Earth's intentions. She met with her closest advisors late one night, aware of the weight of the decisions ahead. "We have to be careful," President Mitchell said quietly, her face drawn with concern. "We've been given a great gift, but with it comes great responsibility. If we don't keep control of our own actions, it could lead to chaos." Her chief advisor, General Jacobson, was less sure. "I understand your concern, Madam President, but we're in a position of strength. If we don't use this power now, someone else will, and we'll be left behind. We can't let the Vorin dictate our future." Mitchell sighed, rubbing her temples. She knew there was truth to his words. The galaxy was vast, and the alliances they formed now could shape the future of humanity for generations. But was power really the answer? She had spent so much of her life fighting for peace, and now she found herself in the middle of a storm that seemed impossible to calm. Meanwhile, the Vorin were not blind to the growing unrest. Zolthor, once hopeful for a peaceful collaboration, found himself questioning the wisdom of his species' involvement on Earth. He had seen the potential in humans, but now that potential seemed to be slipping away, twisted by greed and ambition. He could sense that some humans had begun to see their power as a tool for control, not cooperation. Zolthor's worries were confirmed when he received a disturbing report from his spies within the Earth government. Certain factions of the human military had begun testing new weapons, powerful, destructive tools that could wipe out entire cities. These weapons were built using the very same technology the Vorin had shared with Earth. The Vorin had always known that humans were unpredictable, But this was a step too far. Zolthar understood that the balance was tipping dangerously toward destruction. He convened a meeting with the Vorin Council. "We must act," Zolthar said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "The humans are growing too powerful, and our leaders are losing control. We cannot allow them to continue down this path." One of the council members spoke up. "But if we take action against them, we risk breaking the alliance completely. We may provoke them into turning their weapons on us." Zolthar paused, considering the council member's words. "I know, but if we do nothing, we risk a greater threat. We must find a way to regain control, to remind them of the responsibility that comes with such power." The situation was becoming more complicated by the day. The Vorin, once proud of their peaceful intentions toward Earth, now found themselves questioning their own role in this alliance. If humanity continued to advance unchecked, it could lead to disaster, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, President Mitchell knew the time for talking was running out. The world was on the brink of something far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. How would she keep the peace between the growing factions of humans, and how would she protect the fragile alliance with the Vorin? As the shadows of uncertainty grew longer, one thing was clear: humanity's future, and the future of the galaxy, depended on the choices made in the coming days. And the balance between power, control, and responsibility was more delicate than ever before. The days following Zolthar's warning were filled with tension. The Vorin knew that time was running out to prevent humanity from spiraling out of control. Meanwhile, Earth's government struggled with the growing factions within their own ranks. Some humans wanted to use the Vorin technology to bring peace and prosperity, but others saw it as a tool to dominate the galaxy. The more power Earth gained, the more it seemed to push humanity toward conflict. President Mitchell was overwhelmed. She had tried to lead Earth toward unity, but now the pressure was unbearable. A secret meeting had been arranged with General Jacobson, who had grown more outspoken in his belief that humanity needed to assert its strength. "Madam President," he said, his voice firm, "the Vorin have given us the tools to shape the future, but they're holding us back. If we don't act soon, we'll lose our chance to take our place among the stars." Mitchell stared at him, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on her. "And what exactly are you suggesting, General? That we ignore the consequences and take over the galaxy? That's not who we are." Jacobson's eyes narrowed. "You know as well as I do that we can't afford to be passive. The Vorin have their own agenda, and they're not as trustworthy as we think. They might pretend to help us, but what if they've been manipulating us all along? We need to act now, before it's too late." Mitchell was torn. She had always believed in diplomacy, in using power for good, but Jacobson's words echoed in her mind. Was humanity being held back by their alliance with the Vorin? Was there a greater destiny awaiting them, one that the Vorin were trying to prevent? Meanwhile, Zolthar had learned of the growing unrest on Earth. His spies had reported that military factions on Earth were pushing to use the Vorin's technology for military conquest. The weapons they had built were unlike anything he had seen before, capable of decimating entire star systems with a single shot. The peaceful intentions of the Vorin were now at risk of being shattered. Zolthar had no choice but to act. He contacted President Mitchell, demanding a private meeting. "We need to talk," Zolthar said, his voice cold and serious. "I've seen the weapons your people are building. I warned you that humanity's creativity could be dangerous. But this is beyond anything I imagined." Mitchell, her voice tight with frustration, replied, "I'm doing everything I can, Zolthar. But there are factions here, factions that believe the power we've gained is a gift, one we have the right to use. I can't control everyone, and you know that." Zolthar's eyes hardened. "Then you must choose, President Mitchell. You must choose whether you want peace with the galaxy or if you want to rule it. If you choose power, you will lose the trust of the Vorin. We will not stand by while humanity becomes a threat." The words hung heavily in the air. Zolthar knew that the Vorin could no longer stand idly by while humanity threatened the balance of the galaxy. If President Mitchell could not stop the factions pushing for dominance, the Vorin would have no choice but to take action. It was a decision he had hoped never to make, but it seemed inevitable now. The cracks in the alliance were widening, and the delicate balance between peace and power was teetering on the edge. Zolthar's patience was running out, and he knew that if humanity didn't change course soon, war could be inevitable. On Earth, the debate raged on. Some humans still held on to the dream of cooperation and peace, while others were ready to seize control of the galaxy by any means necessary. Mitchell's role as a leader was now more critical than ever. The future of both humanity and the Vorin hung in the balance. Could she steer Earth back from the brink, or would the human desire for power plunge them all into conflict? The tension continued to rise as the clock ticked down. The alliance was on the edge of breaking, and the consequences of failure would be felt far beyond Earth's borders. The galaxy stood at a crossroads. The once promising alliance between humanity and the Vorin was now on the brink of collapse. Tensions were at an all-time high. On Earth, some factions pushed for dominance, while others fought for peace. The Vorin were growing increasingly frustrated with humanity's unchecked progress and the weapons that had been created using their technology. The question was no longer whether Earth could handle such power. It was whether the galaxy could survive it. President Laura Mitchell stood in her office, staring out at the Earth below. The weight of the decision she had to make seemed almost unbearable. She had tried to lead humanity toward a peaceful future, but now the choice was clear. She could either work with the Vorin to preserve the fragile peace, or she could give in to the factions pushing for power and control. The stakes had never been higher. Zolthar's message had been clear. Humanity needed to choose. If they pursued power, they would face the wrath of the Vorin and risk bringing war to the entire galaxy. If they chose peace, they would need to give up the idea of ruling the stars and instead work alongside the Vorin as true partners. It was a hard decision, but one that could define the future of both races. As Mitchell walked into the war room, she was greeted by General Jacobson, who had been one of the strongest voices pushing for human dominance. "Madam President," he said, his voice determined, "the Vorin are too dangerous. If we don't take control now, they'll manipulate us for the rest of time. We need to show them that humanity is strong enough to stand on its own." Mitchell looked at him, her expression firm but tired. "And if we do that, General, what happens next? What happens when other civilizations learn of our power? What happens when we have to fight other species for control of the galaxy?" Jacobson hesitated. "We'll be ready. We can't afford to wait any longer." Mitchell shook her head. "No. We've already seen what happens when power is misused. If we push forward with this, we risk everything. We'll lose our humanity." Back in the Vorin command ship, Zolthar stood silently, watching Earth's cities through the viewing screen. His heart was heavy. He had hoped that humanity would choose the path of peace, but he had seen the signs. Humans were pushing their limits, and the Vorin might not be able to stop them. The choice that President Mitchell had to make could change the fate of the galaxy forever. "I must go to Earth," Zolthar said to his council. "It is time for the final decision. We cannot wait any longer." Arriving at the Earth capital, Zolthar met with President Mitchell once again. This time, the stakes were even higher. The fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy rested on the shoulders of these two leaders. "President Mitchell," Zolthar began, his voice calm but heavy with the weight of the moment. "You must choose. Will you lead your people to a future of peace, or will you let the hunger for power destroy everything?" Mitchell looked at Zolthar, her eyes filled with both fear and resolve. "We will choose peace," she said, her voice unwavering. "We will not become what we fear. We will stand with the Vorin and work together, not to dominate, but to grow, to build something better for everyone." Zolthar let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He could see the sincerity in her eyes. It was a difficult choice, but one that could bring true peace to both races. Then let this be the beginning of a new chapter, Zolthor said. We will help guide humanity, but you must promise to hold on to the values that make you human, to never lose sight of your responsibility. As the two leaders shook hands, the alliance was officially saved. The future was uncertain, but hope had returned. Humanity and the Vorin would work together to shape the future of the galaxy, not through power, but through cooperation and understanding. The galaxy, once on the brink of destruction, now had a chance for peace. And in that moment, both species realized that the greatest weapon they could wield was not technology or power, but their ability to choose wisely, to work together for a better future.